I still remember that morning like it was yesterday. The sound of my mother's cry was the first thing that woke me. I was only 4 years old, too young to understand what that truly meant, but old enough to feel the silence that followed. My father was gone. People came me, went for our small house, whispering prayers, saying words I didn't understand. All I knew was that my mother's eyes had lost their light, and my oldest brother, barely 17, suddenly looked much older. That was the day our world cracked open. My brother stood outside the house after the funeral, starting at the road as if expecting our father to come back. But he did not. There were no more footsteps, no voice calling our names, only the weight of hunger and responsibility. My brother looked at me, at our younger sister, and at our baby brother who was barely in his teens. He didn't say much. He just tightened his fists and said, "We have to live. No one's coming to help us." That same week, he stopped going to school. He was in 10th grade and dreamed once of becoming something more. But dreams are heavy when you can't afford to carry them. He started working, lifting loads, carrying cements and scarp metals on his shoulders. I can still see him, his back bent under the weight of a steel trolley strapped with rope. He would come home drenched in sweat, his hand blistered, but he never complained. My mother used to wash his clothes quietly at night, crying softly into the bucket of water. Then came the day that changed everything for me. My brother took my small hand and said, "We were going somewhere." I thought maybe he was taking me to play. I had never been to school like other kids, but I often stood outside the gate watching them when envy. Their uniforms, their laughter, the way they ran without worry. But that day, instead of the school gate, we stopped in front of a small mechanic's workshop. The smell of oil hit my nose, strong and bitter. Metal clanged. Men shouted over the noise of engines. "This is where you will sit," my brother said. His voice was firm, too firm for someone who had barely crossed 17. I looked up at him and shook my head. "I don't want to," I whispered, but he didn't listen. He walked to the Ustad, the old mechanic who owned the shop, and said, "He's my brother, keep him here, let him learn." The Ustad looked at me with tired eyes. "He's too small," he said. My brother's voice cracked when he replied, "He has to start sometime." They spoke like I was not even there. My brother patted my head and told me to sit on a wooden stool near to the corner. The machines roared around me. The smell of grease filled my lungs. My eyes stung. I felt out of place, terrified. I missed my mother. I missed home. I missed the world I didn't even know yet. When my brother left, I cried. I cried so hard that even the Ustad's wife came out from the back room and gave me water. She tried to calm me, her hands kind and wrinkled, but nothing helped. I ran toward the door, calling after my brother. He turned his voice hard from exhaustion and grief. He came back, grabbed me by the arm, and shouted, "Stop crying, Abdul, enough." Then in anger and frustration, he strung me across the back. The sitting of that hit burned into my skin and my heart. I froze. Tears stopped midstream. He looked at me, his eyes filled with something more painful than anger. Guilt, fear. But he turned away and walked off. That was the day I stopped crying. That was the day I learned that pain is not always meant to destroy you. Sometimes it's meant to silence you long enough to survive. From that one, the workshop became my world. While other children ran to school with bags on their shoulders, I carried boxes of tools. While they played cricket in the streets, I watched the staff twist bottles and fix engines. My hands were small, but I learned to clean parts, hold wrenches, and keep the fire burning under tea for the older workers. The machines didn't laugh at me. They just made noise. Predictable, steady, honest. At night, I would come home with oil stains on my clothes and sit quietly beside my mother as she prayed. She never asked how my day was, she already knew. Sometimes she had run her fingers through my hair and say, "Your father would have been proud of you." I didn't know if that was true, but those words were the only warmth I had. Years passed slowly. My brother worked harder than anyone I knew. I never smiled like he used to. His shoulders grew broader, his voice deeper, but his heart grew heavier. Sometimes I saw him sitting alone, starting at his hands, wondering if this life was all he would ever have. I wanted to ask him why he hit me that day, but I never did. I think I understood. He was fighting too, not with me, but with my life itself. The start was strict but fair. He taught me how to fix engines, how to listen to the sound of metal grinding and know exactly what was wrong. Machines are like people, he had said. If you listen long enough, they will tell you where it hurts. I listen. I learn and I work harder than anyone. There were days I was so tired that I could barely stand, but I never stopped. That one streak on my back had planted something inside me. Not anger, not fear, but determination. I promised myself that I would never give life a chance to hit me again without hitting back in my own way. When I turned 10, the other boys in the neighborhood started wearing school uniform. I still remember one of them, Faisal, who used to show me his notebook proudly. "Look, Abdul, I can write my name," he had said. I had smiled and nodded, even though I couldn't read a single letter. That night, I sat in the workshop, tracing letters on the floor with oil just to see what it would feel like. The Ustad saw me and said, "One day, you will write your name with your work, not with ink." He was right. When I was 13, my brother came home late one night. His clothes were torn, his hand bleeding. He had been injured while uploading a truck. My mother wept silently and she bandaged his wounds. He looked at me and said, "Never be weak, Abdul. This world only respects strength." His voice broke halfway through the sentence, and I realized how fragile strength could be. Days turned into months, and months into years. I kept working. My hands became calloused, my back strong, but inside there was still that small boy who once cried for his brother's hand. I kept him hidden behind the grease and steel. There were nights when I sat outside the workshop, watching the street lights flicker. I would hear the laughter of students walking home from tuition, their backs swinging, their futures bright. I didn't envy them anymore. I just wondered what it felt like to live without fear of losing everything. My brother never went back to school, but he made sure we never slept hungry. My sister grew up helping my mother at home. My younger brother followed my footsteps, learning small repairs after school. We didn't have much, but we had each other. One evening, after a long day of work, the Ustad looked at me and said, "Abdul, you have grown into a fine machine. But remember, don't let your heart turn to metal." I didn't understand it then, but now I know what he meant. Work can make your hands strong, but if you forget why you are working, it can also make your heart hard. The years I spent in that shop were my hardest and my greatest teachers. I learned that life doesn't wait for you to be ready. It throws you into the fire and expects you to find your way out. I learned that sometimes love comes in harsh forms, like a brother's slap meant to stop your tears because he can't stop his own. I learned that silence is not weakness, it's the sound of endurance. Now, when I see little boys walking with their fathers holding hands, I feel a warmth in my chest and a quiet ache too, because somewhere deep inside, I am still that 4 years old boy sitting in a corner of a workshop, scared and lost, waiting for his brother to come back. But I also know that boy never gave up. I learned to listen to the sound of engines, to the rhythm of struggle, to the pulse of life itself. I grew up fixing machines, but along the way, I learned how to fix myself too. Not perfectly, not completely, but enough to keep moving. My life began in noise and ended in purpose. Every wrench I turned, every screw I tightened, every scare on my hand became proof that pain can build something stronger than disappear. And if you are listening to this story, maybe you have felt that kind of pain too. Maybe you know what it's like to grow up too soon, to carry more than your shoulders were meant to bear. Maybe you have been struck by someone who was only trying to protect you in the only way they knew. If so, don't hate them. Understand them. Pain doesn't make people cruel. It makes them disappear. The truth is, I never hated my brother. That one hit gave me a lifetime of fire. It taught me to rise. It taught me that even when the world forgets you, you can still build yourself piece by piece, like a broken engine waiting to roar again. Today, when I look at my hands, I see history written in scars. I see my father's silence, my mother's tears, my brother's strength, my sister's prayer. I see a boy who was never meant to give up, and I whisper to him, "You made it." So if you ever find yourself sitting in a dark corner of your own life, surrounded by noise and loneliness, remember this: no pain lasts forever, but the strength you pull it through, it does. You might bend, you might cry, but you will not break. Because somewhere deep inside you, there's a small child who refused to stay down. And that child is still fighting, still learning, still alive. And that's enough.